Hello, everyone. I have to make sure that we're... Hey, sorry. I think it's been up for a little bit. Okay, how are you guys doing? We are here for session 7 of 51st chapters. Thanks for joining us.
I think you're off the screen.
Oh, am I? Sorry, we didn't send our... Sorry, every time we start this dang thing, I swear that Google and YouTube... Well, they change it.
They do change
it. They just give me like a tiny different screen to start with, and I'm like, I don't know where the button is now, and all this pressure. So
I'm still Heather Clark.
I'm still Nikki Triampo. Okay, I have to move this off because we can't
see watch ourselves in delayed.
Yeah, especially because it's delayed, so that's even more confusing. Okay, so hopefully you have the handout. We have our 51st chapters handout. It is a final checklist. What we're going to do today, in order to kind of break it up and make the time go hopefully nice and fast, we're going to start with some of our samples from last time. We're still talking about emotional beats from last time, and then we're going to go over a few of our checklist items, etc., and so forth. So what we're going to do is get over here. We're going to do that screen in like we did last time. Here are our writing samples. Share. And it's going to work just fine. Okay, so we're on Laurie Traders. Very good. Laurie Traders, we picked a sample right from the very end. So do you want to tell us a little bit about this first chapter?
Oh, me?
Do you want to? I don't know.
Well, I thought it was awesome. It was really interesting.
Yeah,
we thought right from the get-go with the government of death, my death, we were like hooked. And so
like,
that was great.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we thought was interesting about this selection is there aren't really a ton of beats in it, but it's kind of perfect because we have this idea like that she's always been living in this thing, and she knew. I said my goodbyes the day I was born. It's been clinical for her from the get-go, and so emotionally it works really well. The voice is really spot on, and we were really impressed with how it worked.
Yeah, we really liked it. We picked from the very end, but we're going to talk about 2 areas actually. So I'm going to read sample 3. This is kind of the end of the pages that we saw. Fire erupts at the knee. Oh, sorry. So she's in a clinic, and she is getting a shot right now. And from what I understand, this shot will cause her to die.
Right, it's like a lethal injection.
Yeah,
type
some kind
thing.
of delayed reaction lethal injection. Okay, and she knows that she's up for this, and so
she's in a line of people who are all getting executed, and that's how it's supposed to go.
Fire erupts at the needle site, causing my arm to shake. I close my eyes, clench my teeth, and tighten my fists in desperation. Oh, whatever. I'll get it onto track changes here. To seal the agony inside. Don't scream, don't cry. Don't give them an excuse to put a bullet in your head. I repeat over and over until the fire dulls into a painful ache. I open my eyes and stare at my killer. Relax, specimen, it's over now. The medic's hand withdraws another blood bubble into the blood printing machine. It breathes life once again with the updated data. Catalyst specimen, Sloan, identification number, a number. Life expectancy, 16 years, 3 days. I'll be dead day after tomorrow. And that's the end. So very powerful. We really liked it.
Yeah.
Really totally liked it.
Yep. How sparse that seemed really effective for what you were trying to do.
Yeah. So you have a motivation here. We'll go ahead and label
Break it down.
So you have a motivation. Whoops. Okay. Then you have, technically, sometimes we say that there needs to be a paragraph break. I don't know. I think these rules are a little fluid, though. Because technically she has some thought here.
Well, she's got her reaction. So the motivation,
right.
And actually we transition to reaction right in the middle.
Right.
Actually, so the motivation is the needle, right, being put, plunges the needle in my shoulder. This is the motivation.
This is the motivation.
The fire erupting is the feeling.
You're right. You got it in the right order.
And that's actually a really classic example of feeling.
Yeah.
You're showing the fire erupting and her arm is shaking. That's not even really her visceral reaction.
Right. This is her visceral reaction.
That's the feeling. And then, yep.
And then
she closes her eyes, clenches her teeth, tightens her fists in desperation to seal the agony inside. By desperation to seal the agony inside, we're already getting to thought and analysis a little bit.
And we have a lack of action, but that shows her situation. There isn't.
Don't
really
give them excuse to put a bullet in your head. Her action is no action.
Yeah, her action is no action.
She makes a decision, is what it is. And that's her decision is don't give them an excuse. Right?
Yeah,
oh no, don't do any of the things.
She acts on her decision here.
Right.
This is action here just by not doing anything, I guess. You know what I mean?
Well, and yeah, the repeating of the mantra of not acting, all of that is action. So.
And then we've got, you know, another motive. Technically, the way that it goes back and forth, you know, technically there's another motivation unit here, and then all we have here is a thought, but it's kind of got the emotional setting of it all wrapped up into it. I'll be dead the day after tomorrow.
Right. And it's so clinical because she told me already she said her goodbyes the day she was born.
Right.
So I know that she knows she's going to die. I know that's the plan. And I don't really need her to like to do an emotional wreck or something here.
Right.
However, I'm assuming she will not be dead. And that is really exciting to me. And I am pumped to keep reading. Yeah,
that's awesome. Okay, and I like that it was first person too, because if this were third person, we might be thinking, oh, this person's going to be dead. And maybe somebody else is going to tell, you know, their story based on why this is important. But that's how it's kind of annoying when you're invested in somebody and you think they really are going to die.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
you know
absolutely.
I mean? So anyway, but that, I mean, that's just, okay. We wanted to go all the way back to here. And Laurie, this is for you. She gets the results that she is not pregnant way up here. And we did feel, we showed your example because we didn't have a lot to say for it and we wanted to show some positive examples, so 2 thumbs up. We wanted to know though, just as readers, we wanted a little more emotion here, and you don't have to like lay it on heavy, but any hint at, is this wistful? She says she nods knowing the results that she isn't pregnant. She knew that it would be negative. Is it wistful, like I could have had a family? Is it relief? Is it,
right, what are her thoughts?
Is she thinking about a specific guy?
Because you really kind of hung a light on that by giving us that whole, this is what HCG is. It's a hormone that shows pregnancy. You would have had a 1-year pardon.
Yeah.
This is our moment. And that moment right there, we both had marked, hoping that there would be beats there.
Yeah.
So I don't know what you want to put in there.
She doesn't have to get pregnant.
Right. Was there a boyfriend? Did she have someone she loved? Did she never have sex? Is that why she knew it would be related? I mean, there's all kinds of...
Was it a choice? This is the only hint we have at her history. The only one. So we just kind of wanted a little more there.
We would love to know a little more there.
Yeah. So I think it gives you, even though this is cool, everybody wants to, and I was telling Heather this earlier, everybody wants to not die. So this is a ton of stakes, the fact that she'll be dead, but it actually ups the stakes if we know why her life is important.
Right. If she's already, you said that she said goodbye to her family. So what is it she's leaving behind and maybe gonna miss and maybe wished she could have had something?
If she's completely dead to it and all she wants is like the painless death as opposed to the bullet in the head death, that's not as powerful as if there are some higher reasons for living, and it's not just like I was saying to Heather, like even rats don't want to die.
Right.
Even rats will like run away from.
Right.
You know,
and that's your moment. You've provided a perfect moment. So just go back there and use those hints.
So that's perfect. Okay, let's go on to Marx's. So Marcus, we have a little bit of introduction here to the setting and a little bit of backstory here, and then we'll go right into sample 4. It's not healthy to ignore your grief like this, Hannah said, and Myra raised an eyebrow at her. How do you say that?
Mira is how I said it.
Okay, sorry. And Mira raised an eyebrow at her unexpected frankness. She answered, I remember a time when, and then I'm paraphrasing you here because we're going to try to keep the sample short. This isn't Marx's writing.
I legitimately thought that was Marx's writing when I saw the sample.
No,
I was like,
I'm sorry.
Wow. No, I'm just kidding.
And then something, you know, she describes this thing when something bad happened at work. For her dad's work, something bad happened. I wanted to go to the zoo, but her dad was visibly distraught. So I told him that we could stay in the room if he wanted. He told me it was okay and that he would go with me. I asked him why he would do something like that when I could see he was sad. Mira stopped to open her lipstick and apply it. She ran the greasy gum over her lips in 2 fluid motions, leaving them more noticeable, but not overstated maroon. He told me that the more money you have, the less you can afford to let people see you cry. Now Hannah raised an eyebrow at Mira and said, you always did take his advice seriously. I can hold it together for one more night.
That's really strong.
I really liked this. I liked it so much more than this.
Agreed.
I felt like this was a lot of exposition, and
I would maybe even cut.
I just
and
don't
start
know
with it's not healthy to ignore your grief like that.
And give us a tiny bit of this setting here. I mean, we got to have like a little bit here, just like
you can put those around their little lines of dialogue.
Put it right there, and then just because I really liked this, so let's go. So here's our motivation. Okay. That's our motivation unit because her sister says something to her. I'm going to erase this because there's no need to have it. Then we've got her action already.
Well, actually, we have her visceral reaction with the raising of the eyebrow.
I keep going too fast.
And you know what? If that was in its own paragraph, you'd have noticed it more.
Well, yeah, but
I'm just saying you can move it if you want.
You could. I mean, technically, you could.
Yeah, that's what I would do.
Yeah,
but
especially because it's right at the beginning. Especially like if this literally is your first page, then I would maybe just break that up. Because it's actually easier for your reader to start telling who is who. When you can separate it, you know, when they can just kind of visually have it separated for them. Okay, but so we do have a visceral reaction there, and then we have an action, but we don't have a lot of thought, and I like it like that because Myra stopped to open her lipstick and apply it and all that. She tells right here why she's not
why she's not crying.
So much.
She's not showing emotion. She
it's
says,
so great.
You're not going to see a lot of beats from me because...
Yeah, basically she tells you right here, we were saying this is her emotional reaction.
Is the story.
Is the story.
And we talked about how a beat can be that flash from the past. Now, you gave us a little longer beat, but it's beautiful.
I loved it.
To put that beat in dialogue. Her reaction to the thing is this flash of memory.
Right.
And then she tells us in dialogue.
Yeah, the fact that you put it in dialogue, that's extra points.
Right, because if you didn't do that, what you would have been doing is right from the get-go, we have a flashback, and that's not what this feels like.
Right.
Because this is still in the story, still in the scene.
Yeah, so I loved it.
And didn't feel input-uppy at all.
This felt really like flowing and actiony like a movie script, but this I didn't like as much. I felt like it was a lot of wading through a lot of exposition. And then one more thing, I'm just going to tidy up a few other things here. When you have Mira in one paragraph, and then you have a paragraph break and a start, we're going to assume that it's Hannah talking. So you need to either say, you need to put it here, maybe, and have it be, have it be one, you know, have it be up here, or you can say Myra, you know, you can tag this again. That's what I would do. I would actually. You can say Myra said. Yeah, you can say Myra said, but I actually like it usually when she told me the more money you have. I don't know. Yeah, you could just put it here. Myra said.
Well, but you can do it up front if you want to. Or you can say.
I know it's hard because this is already too long.
You've already tagged the front. You almost have to have two tags. Yeah.
You have to have two
tags. Make sure it's clear.
So what we're talking about here, because it's the first page, don't put Myra at the very end. Put her right here so we know she's talking, and we don't get our.
And you don't have to say Mira said. You could say right there Mira and then one small action or she something. But I really do like how you've given us this totally clinical, clean. She stopped to open her lipstick and apply it. She's dealing with the makeup. She's not dealing with the emotion because she knows that she's not allowed to show it.
Yeah, like you could up here. She could, for example, she could lean toward the mirror. Here, put it on, and then you could say mirror straightened. You know, like from the mirror, and you know,
turn to look her in the eye, or something,
or turn to her sister, or whatever. He told me the more money you have, but it really gives us this moment. It actually highlights this moment where she tells her little story, then she takes a moment to do something where she ignores her sister, then she comes back to
almost like she's taking that time to compose herself.
Yeah. And then she answers it. So I really liked that. I thought it was great. There was one more thing. I have been marked down many times for the parentheses. Some people absolutely hate them. So just something to think about.
Or what?
Yeah,
something.
Yeah, you could just say. You don't even have to have it. Leaving them more noticeable but not overstating would be just fine. You could also do dashes if you prefer, or you could just leave it in. But I don't actually recommend them, and especially for context. People are like really weird about contests. Anyway, okay, so now what we're gonna do is go back. Let's check and make sure. Hello, Mira. It is Mira. It's Mira.
Yeah, I win.
Heather wins. Heather wins. Hello, Marcus. Marcus is very patient because I was supposed to read his last week and I asked for a week extension, but I'm reading it tomorrow at 1 o'clock in case you want to know what I'm doing tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Okay, let's go ahead and go back off screen share and let's go. Here we go. Let's go onto this for a little bit and then we'll go back to that and then hopefully that'll break it up a little bit. Okay. First, this is going to go really fast.
It is.
You need 3 things at the beginning and I need them on the first page. That's my, if you're writing literary.
I need them fast.
If you're writing literary, you can do this
You can take more time.
Maybe 2 or 3 pages, whatever. I need a gender, I need a name, and I need an age. And this, I was surprised at how many sample pages I read where I was reading along and I'd be like 5 pages in and then all of a sudden the gender would switch. If you are writing in first person, this is a really significant.
Don't let me get rooted in the wrong gender. I will have a hard time forgiving you for like a while.
So my recommendation on gender is that you put in, you don't have to say, I was thinking about how I was a girl.
I'm such a girl, man.
You know, or a boy or whatever. But
or
I recommend,
applied my lipstick.
It's just so easy. You can just, you know, I leaned forward, my stubble caught on my calluses or whatever. Like, boom, you're a guy.
Give me
like,
some
it's
tags.
so easy to do. Or I flipped my hair back.
It doesn't necessarily mean that you're a guy. Sometimes my calluses stubble up.
That's so true. We all know how that goes. Yeah, or you can have her flip her hair, and obviously sometimes guys can have long hair, but you're just, you know, you can have. Like, I was checking out this girl, and she's so super hot. And yeah, maybe the
possibly
girl's gay,
she's lesbian. Yeah,
most
just
of the time
try
not.
to give me try to give me an indication.
You'll be fine. Okay, check your diction. Diction is your word choice. So,
oh, by the way, sorry, just really fast.
Go ahead.
With gender, name, and age, what she did not say was the color of their eyes and the color and length of their hair.
I happened to start.
Please do not, in your first page, have your character look at themselves in a mirror and notice their eyes and their hair. Although, holy crap, I think I just did something like that in my new first chapter. Anyway,
which she's starting today.
I started it this morning for the first chapter context.
I printed my story and I finished the last page reading it and writing my notes an hour ago. Yes, I put those in. I sent to beta readers. I do something else, like something. I'm so excited. I have to paint a closet, actually. Okay.
Yeah, so, we don't really care what they look like. They can imagine they look like anything to start with. I don't care.
So if you go back to some of these, I'm not going to show up because we already showed a lot, but if you go back to the samples and you look at some of the really crisp writing, if you take some of the vocab words from there, verbs, nouns, all kinds of stuff, adverbs, anything that they have in there, and you just kind of take like a sampling of that and you handed 20 of them from the first chapter to somebody, you could say, what's the emotional setting of this book? And if the person can get pretty close, then you're doing awesome. You're doing great. And most of you guys did that really well. Actually, I felt like I thought I was going to have to hit that hard, but almost everybody did that really, really well. So maybe it's just really instinctive. Check your narration and try to trim is what I would say on narration. A lot of times exposition and narration is when you're kind of telling what's going on without really showing it. Try to get that, like Marcus did, try to get that in dialogue. That was awesome.
And a lot of times in the first chapter, you're really writing your way into your story. Sometimes you're honestly going to find out, like I just did a critique for somebody the other day, their first chapter is not their first chapter. They had to cut the whole thing. Like there's no way anyone wants to start there because you're finding out your world and you're thinking, but you're not even to the spot yet. So as you go through and you're trimming, you may actually just have to pick your second chapter and start there. And don't be afraid to do that.
Yeah, it's no problem because you're telling the story and your reader appreciates it when you start at the right place. Right.
And also because you're making up the whole backstory and you're writing it in large paragraph chunks, go back and delete almost all of those and just give me exactly what I need for the story at that moment. Right. And just exactly what they would be thinking about in that point in the story. You don't have to tell me the history of their favorite color green or anything.
Right. Okay. So check your action. And so for action, we're looking for 3 things. We want it to be clear. Clarity always wins. It wins over coolness. It wins over beauty.
Voice. Yeah.
It wins over the sense of like.
Do you remember
drama?
Anne Perry in her keynote a couple of years ago, and she was like beautiful and wonderful,
I love her so
magical, and all her words were perfect. But she just was like, here's the thing: you write all the words of your story. And then your job is to simply cut away every word that does not belong. And I was like, every word that does not belong. It's leaving, but for real.
Like what's his name? Michelangelo.
Get clear. Say exactly what you meant to say, I believe is what she said.
Right. Well, Michelangelo would talk about that. Sculpting,
marble,
you just take away what doesn't belong. Yeah, that's good. No, that's good. Yeah. Remember these things: faith, hope, and clarity. But of the 3, clarity is important. That's Orson Scott Card.
I love it.
You know, Laura Card is in my writing group. So
Yeah.
Anyway, so she
That
says,
is so funny.
she always quotes him on that. We're like, yeah. We've heard that one before. It's really hard to be clear though, and you still get you have to worry about it constantly, no matter how much you've written. Okay, tell the story. So that's obviously important, but don't be afraid to just kind of say what's going on. And how do I say this? Even though we want the emotional beats and we want the this, and what we want more is the story. And so
we want to know there will be a story.
Yeah, don't be afraid to have things happen and have them happen quickly. You know, on page 3, page 5, you don't have to have this really long intro and we get really grounded in the world.
We just kind of feel, they're teenagers.
Grounded.
They feel like teenagers. They have a bedroom. They have a friend.
Right. And that's not going to be as important on chapter 16. If we like these characters, if we want to see them interact, we want to hang out with them for a little bit, that's fine. But we don't really want to do that so much right in the first chapter. Be visually interesting and really challenge yourself on this. It's the first chapter. Don't put them in a room talking like you know, if you possibly can. Are you thinking of your first chapter?
No. No, but it happens all the time.
Yeah,
like
it does.
A bedroom?
Does. Yeah.
A bedroom
hallway.
Before school.
Yeah.
Like, that's literally where my first one starts.
Don't say that because Michael starts in a bedroom before school. Sometimes
it's supposed to. Sometimes that's where your inciting incident occurs.
And sometimes it is where your inciting incident occurs. So what you need to think of is how can you make that bedroom interesting?
Right.
Can they live on the 50th floor of an apartment in San Francisco? And it's like,
and it's funny that I
really
didn't think about Michael's because he is showing me so much interesting, so many interesting things about the character.
Well, and he does have some interesting things. Like he happens to be
doing something.
I better say this right, Michael. Shoot, he's from Indonesia, right? I always say it wrong.
I don't know.
If you're from another country, I'm gonna be so mad.
I don't know. Hi.
Anyway, you mentioned it. Oh, I should just look it up.
I did not remember. I remember
anyway,
like small, scrappy Asian kid.
Yeah, but he talked about his mom making them a specific type of food. I believe. If I have it wrong, I'm gonna be so mad.
So as you're being visually interesting, if you're in that bedroom, like give me a couple of things. And you know what? In that first chapter, don't give me what it looked like in the room if it doesn't build character, if it doesn't build emotion, if it doesn't build mood, if it doesn't build tension. So be visually interesting and also telling the story.
I always do that to you. And there was a Filipino club in my high school, which we have discussed like 9 times. Michael, suck. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Anyway, you're all right. Sorry.
I'm going to say it's all right for you, Michael. Should be okay.
Michael's got my back.
Yeah. Okay, so as you're being visually interesting, don't just see, and there was an example actually in that one that we just hit with Mira. There's a big long description of the mirror, which is visually interesting.
Right.
But it didn't build the story or conflict, and especially as like the second paragraph there, it was too much. And so give me something that will show me the mood.
Yeah,
and show me the character.
It's interesting because sometimes people really like. You can use the setting to really build the emotional stakes of a world, but you just have to do it really, really well. Right. And I felt like I personally felt like he did it better with the conversation. I
agree. He did. It was stronger. It was stronger.
And if you're establishing these same two things, sometimes writers will do that too. They'll use this cool setting to establish the emotional stakes, and then they'll reestablish them in the next bit of dialogue.
Right, you don't have to double up.
You don't have to do it
You
twice.
can pick the better one.
Just
and move on. Exactly how we were talking about with that line of dialogue. That was a beat. We didn't then also need her heart to lurch and her.
Right.
In fact, please don't.
No lurching.
Stomachs lurch. Hearts beat wildly. Okay.
I'm sure there's a book where heart lurches.
Mine does on every page. Okay. Whew. Okay.
Okay. Check the dialogue.
Make it fun and real, and the way you do that is you read it out loud. If you have to read it out loud with somebody, and if you read it out loud and you realize that something in the dialogue is going to really shock someone else or whatever, give us a beat.
Right. Yeah. Totally. Add humor if you can. We talked about this before.
But even in your dialogue, clarity is still the most important thing.
That's
so
true.
Be funny, but make sure that we still get what's happening.
I will hang with dialogue a little bit longer.
That's true.
If it seems interesting, and you know how, like, if you're on a train and you hear somebody, you're listening, and you don't know what they're talking about, but it sounds really interesting. Have you ever?
Yeah, you'll go along with it.
And you'll go along with it for a little bit, way more than narration.
True.
So I still want
True.
clarity. I want to be able to, at the end of the day, be able to look back and say, like, I understood something, you know.
Right.
But then, okay, let them talk. Don't over-explain. Because a lot of times they'll say, oh, I need to go to the store. Oh, I needed to go to the store because blah, 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 blah. And
Right.
it's like,
They already said it. We're good. We're so good.
We're good.
We got it.
We're good. And then this one, do you want to say that one? Have you?
Oh, just differentiate their word usage, personalities, and like what they tend to focus on. So like if I want to be able to really tell, and you know what, that just comes in first chapters. When you go back to revise your first chapter, frequently you'll go back and everything sounds totally bland, like middle of the road, which actually when we get to Michael's,
that's why
this is so differentiated. It's so interesting. This person's brain, in fact, there's a beat there that I was like, this is so brilliant, because it's so distinct to that character that right away I know I'm going to like him and I'm going to care about him. Right. So, so yeah, just get into their heads. And a lot of times it takes writing through the entire book, and then you come back, like right now, I'm completely rewriting my first chapter because I just can't even keep a word of it.
Because that guy in your chapter, Michael, he goes by Mike, but I always call him Michael because he's Michael on Facebook. But anyway, because he's so fun and quirky and his own guy, don't put that dialogue voice into your other characters' mouths. You know what I mean?
And so you'll slip up and do that a lot.
Sometimes people will, you know what I mean? So, okay, I think we're going to go back to some samples now. We're just going to kind of, I know. All right, hopefully this is there a checklist handout? Why, yes, there is, Jana. But you will make sure that you get that. In fact, it should be, is it in the,
is it on the website?
It's not there yet. Oh, we're still going, right? Yes, we are. I'm so afraid of killing my live webinar. Jana, I will make sure you get that. I'll email it to you again. If you're not getting the emails, then we'll make sure you get the emails. There's like a whole email thing. Maybe anyway, whatever. We'll get to that. Okay, let's go over, or somebody can shoot it to her if you guys happen to have it. It's on the website too if you go to my website. Okay, but we're going to go on to, we did Marxist, we're on to Carol Frank. I think we're doing good for time, but let's just, okay, so here we have Carol Frank. So I'm going to go ahead and just read it. We have 2 children. We assume they're children.
But that's not where the sample starts, is it?
No, I know. I'm just, so we're up here, and it's Pete and his sister Cassie. We have a hint at their age, you know, that they're kind of kids because they're talking about 1.5 years. I mean, that's, you know, they're not 69. And he wants to make this herbarium, and she doesn't really want to make it. We've already established that she doesn't really know how to pronounce it very well. So she says, terrarium, herbarium, whatever. Cassie wagged her arm at him. Your science junk sounds all the same to me. Yeah, I know, Pete muttered. I better move this one.
Oh, we're not on screen share.
Oh, but we're not on screen share yet.
Sorry,
I'm
guys.
sorry. Oh, good thing that we saw that. Writing samples for tape, right? That's what we're share. There we go.
Yay.
Okay, here. Sorry. Okay. We are right here. I'm going to pick up right here. Yeah, I know, Pete muttered, figuring his dad probably felt the same way. Ever since his dad became Sulphur's chief of police 2 years ago, he'd seemed distant. And then we have some backstory about how his dad has seemed distant. I cut that. I trimmed that. Just for space here. Cassie leaned down and looked Pete in the eye. I'm serious. Why do I need to help you make a Terra herbarium if you've already got one? Because I didn't get one, Pete said through gritted teeth. You can't buy them in the store, so I'm making one. He motioned for Cassie to resume hiking alongside him. That's why I need you to come and help me, not because Mom made me come. Cass, Pete slurred her nickname, hating the reminder. Okay, so we have, well, let's go ahead. Okay, so we've got motivation here. Mm-hmm. And then we've got, basically, we've got a little bit of action here. Mm-hmm. And then we've got his thought here. And then we've got just more thought.
Mm-hmm. More thought, which is backstory.
Yeah. Right. Well, and backstory is part of thought.
Right,
and we've
exactly.
talked about that.
Totally.
And it's the right place to go.
It is.
We've talked about that. I usually, like, in my head, I actually put backstory there because I like to know why I have to go on about this. Like, in other words, if I'm going on about something, if I see that my thought is like 3 whole sentences long and it's not backstory, I'm like, what in the heck is taking so long? You know what I mean? But if it's backstory, then that's important. Or in my case, because I write mysteries, if it's sleuthing, then we keep it. So, okay, then this is motivation again. Then we've got action again. And we've got a hint at his visceral reaction here. Okay. And then we've got action again here.
And her motivation was the not because mom made me come.
And then we've got the thought here.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes, sorry, motivation here. Yeah, sorry,
yeah.
Sorry. Okay, so the reason why I picked this little sample is that it's got things out of order, and it's just tiny little things. But I thought that if we switched these, because it was the same thing 3 times in a row, we keep getting his answer before we, the reader, know how he's saying it and know what it means to him.
Right.
And so because of that, we don't...
And physiologically, that's not how it works.
Right.
He won't speak till these other things happen. So if we flip the order, we will feel more grounded and it will feel more authentic.
Also, when we read it, as a reader, we will read it more like a professional reader would read for an audiobook. Like it will... Right. We can do those little things because we know.
Otherwise, we just go, yeah, I know.
Yeah, everything.
Muttered, and then we go back and we go, yeah,
right.
I know.
Because I didn't get one. But like he could be like, if you've already got one, he could be excited here because I didn't get one. Pete said through gritted teeth.
I didn't get one. And it makes them stop and reread. For me, I go back and reread.
Right, because you want to get it.
Feel it.
You want to get it right. And so I thought that we could just switch some of this up, so we could put these yeah I knows in their own paragraph right under. He said or whatever. And you'll see there's a lot of what this is going to give you, though, if you do this every time. You can just put his gritted teeth here. This one's small enough.
Yeah, you can just be like, Pete gritted his teeth because I didn't get one.
Right, and you can do it sometimes. I have to say that if every once in a while you say he put his name,
it's fine.
Sometimes it's okay, but especially page 1, page 2, page 3. I would suggest not doing it as often.
And I think we're missing. I think you could throw in maybe some, because I think it's hard for you to use that exact same visceral reaction like in the example. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Back up just a little bit.
Where
there. So where we have him muttering, and the muttering is good. So if we want to say Pete muttered, you can put that down with the new action. Yeah, I know, Pete muttered. But I would like up there before just figuring his dad probably felt the same way. His dad had seemed distant. I would love to have a hint of his emotion in a visceral reaction or something, or a reaction to his surroundings or something. I don't know.
I kind of agreed. I felt like you needed a reaction to the backstory.
Yeah, this is emotional for him, and there wasn't a beat.
I felt like this was a fun view of some kids here. And then I'm going to kind of fast forward here for the people viewing. We get to see here, way down at the end of the sample, that something happens to these children that is going to take us, we think, into some kind of fantasy world, or maybe some action, or we're not 100% sure where it's taking us because it's still just a few pages. But we felt like one of two things: either we needed to make it really lighthearted, like Treehouse Mysteries, where basically there's like just a page or so of dialogue, and then there's boom.
Banter, action.
Banter, they're in the treehouse, and they literally go back in time to another world. And the current world that they're in doesn't really play into the story much, so we don't even really see it. We either need to see why this stuff is so important to this story and get a little better sense of that.
If this stuff is pivotal, if it's central to the story.
Pivotal. If it's not pivotal, then we need it trimmed. We need it trimmed, down to something more like a page or a page and a half, if this is a very younger reader, kind of middle grade, and we need to get to this sooner. That was our suggestion. Mm-hmm. So, very fun, very cool. So.
Oh, also, when you mentioned the trolls, that was a hard one for me, because there was that one moment when she says, like, not even a troll would do it or something.
Right. Not even
a troll would want to do this. And I was like, what? Pause. Are we in a fantasy world? There was nothing else that remotely indicated that. Like, Dad's a chief of police. And then I had no idea. And so that line really pulled me out. So I don't know. I would either expand it if it is a fantasy world, or probably cut it.
Maybe just, because it just, again, just for clarity, are we already in?
If you're rooting me in a fantasy world already, then the troll can stay.
Then the troll can stay. Okay, let's do Sabrina. Let's see. I really like this one. I like the voice on this one, but we had some clarity issues on this one. In fact, you're going to notice when I give the backstory for our viewers here, you're going to probably notice that our backstory doesn't even come out quite right, because
We were confused.
We're not
but we really loved the voice.
Yeah, like it's so cool. For example, right here, Sabrina says, Hatter downbeat, 21 downbeat. She's in a nightclub.
Oh my gosh, it's because it's the facts about Andrew Hart are scrolling down her visual, which I didn't catch there.
So is downbeat like, is that her making her eyes go down and then back up? Is that how she navigates?
No idea.
We aren't sure if this is how she navigates.
I thought it was the beat of the music.
I thought it was the downbeat music too.
The things were scrolling, right?
I thought it was like Hatter, boom, 21.
Yeah,
let's wrap this out. Let's do it, which is totally.
But it was
sweet.
cool. It's super poetic, and she's in this rave, and it's.
I like that.
It feels all confusing, and this whole thing about lean bodies and unfocused eyes. And
even the names. She's looking for White Rabbit, and she wants to find Mad Hatter.
Mm-hmm.
Super sweet, but we needed a little bit more to. I put this in.
We needed to be grounded better because by the time she gets to the thing about her visual net, once she gets hit and the lights go across her visual net, at that point I was like,
I will explain to our listeners. So she's at a nightclub. She is looking for somebody. They are obviously all characters. All the names have to do with Alice in Wonderland. And she has some kind of visual computer thing that she is able to see real time. So she's seeing what's going on, but then she's also seeing this computer monitor kind of display. And so now we're going to read sample 6, knowing that. Relief washed over Alice. She'd found the rabbit. Now the rabbit would lead her to the one person who could get her into the Hart Corporation and the technology that would save her sister's life. He had to be close. Not waiting for the downbeat.
We were super confused. We wanted to know though, because it's so intriguing. What is the downbeat she's waiting for to lean, and she's mid-jump?
She leaned mid-jump.
And why is she jumping in the
nightclub?
nightclub?
Understand how you can lean mid-jump, but that's okay.
But we want to know because it's super interesting.
Perhaps he was on the other side of White Rabbit. Coming down, Alice's foot caught behind her. She lurched forward, arms flying out. A straight elbow knocked her head back, overlaying her vision. Her net feed with sparks of light. Alice no longer moved with the waves.
I should say that that was the second or third time that I'd read that part up there, and that's the first time up there that I realized she was seeing data on her net feed until here. And I don't know if you noticed it the first time.
I knew she was seeing data.
Okay, I didn't quite get it.
Okay. Alice no longer moved with the waves. Okay, can't say waves here, but we need to. Okay, let me just read it. Sorry. Alice no longer moved with the waves. Instead, she was being dashed like a ship against the rocks. She would sink into oblivion any second. She closed her eyes, waiting to be trampled. Waves of people. Like, you got to help us out a tiny little bit. Because sometimes it looks like
she's getting metaphorical, but it's confusing.
Is she drugged?
I feel like she's on a drug trip.
I felt like she was knocked into and she fell.
And that's probably it, but I felt kind of drug trippy through the whole thing. I think partly because of the environment of the rave and the unfocused eyes and stuff. And so in this part, when she suddenly is going all trippy, I mean, maybe she's just been hit, but I didn't get it.
Right.
For sure.
We need to know this right here. We need to know that this is still motivation, and we need to know that it is not a decision. And that is super, super, super critical. Because if she decides Alice no longer moved with the waves, it just gets confusing. We really need to know, like, Alice.
And is she sinking into oblivion? Does that mean mental oblivion? Or because in a second you say she closed her eyes waiting to be trampled. Is she actually falling to the ground? I'm assuming she is.
Right.
It got confusing. And maybe it's supposed to be confusing there because she has been hit and she's going unconscious.
Yeah, I don't mind if it's confusing for a tiny bit, but this was a little bit too much for me. So I would say go through here and tell us exactly, like, she was being, like, Alice no longer moved with the waves of people because she fell on the floor.
But you can say it better than that.
I'm sure you will.
Exactly. But for clarity over poetry in this paragraph.
I totally agree, because you know what? I get constantly, my writing group is constantly nailing on this. They're like, yes, you have this voice and it's funny and you're so focused on that we don't know what's going on. And when my writers group say because she fell on the floor, then I just write because she fell on the floor. And I don't try to make it cool. Like, I'm just like, this is not the time for cool. This is the time for clarity and speed. Like, get him up to speed. Where is she?
Well, see, I wouldn't say because she fell on the floor in that instance. I wouldn't use the no longer moved with the waves of the people. I'd just be like, Alice fell to the floor. I don't know. Like I don't know.
With the waves of the people. Yeah, that's
something. I'm just saying it's disjointed because you're so poetic, and then you just say because she fell on the floor.
Head back, overlay in her vision, her net feed, and this needs to be dashed in my opinion because it's hard when there's a hand there. So overlay in her vision, her net feed with sparks of light. Alice reeled backwards.
Yes, exactly. Tell me what physical action is happening to her here so I know.
And fell, no longer moving with the waves of people. Instead, she's being dashed like a ship against a rock. I still kind of need her landing. Does she, I mean, she's falling. Does she fall all the way to the floor? Anyway, it's hard for us to...
this is definitely... Okay, this is cool, though, because she's clearly going down the rabbit hole here. You know what I'm saying? As she's going into unconsciousness, maybe it's on the other side of the white rabbit. She goes to jump, and we're going down the rabbit hole. Nice. It's really cool.
It's very cool. We just need to see it. Like,
we just need to know what's happening.
A little bit more. So this isn't really about emotional needs and all that stuff because like you can't add that in until you have the clarity.
Right.
So work on the clarity and then work on making sure each sentence that you have, make sure that you can tell make sure you know that the reader can know if it's a visceral reaction, if it's literal or metaphorical, that kind of thing. So that's what
I will say that the very first paragraph of sample 6 was really helpful to me when you got me. I mean, in 2 sentences, wow. Here's the goal. It's a very clear scene goal, and all of a sudden, and no, not there. Where we were.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, of sample 6. Right. So right there, where it says relief washed over her, she found the rabbit. He would lead her to the one person who could get her into the corporation and the technology that saved her sister's life. You've given me stakes.
Right.
You've given me goal. You've given me conflict, and I'm like clear. And then I started to get confused, but I am thankful that you have that information.
Right.
And I could maybe use a little more up higher, and we didn't read that together, but a little higher in the story. So I can use a little more. What are the stakes? What is happening? Just a little sooner, ground just a little sooner.
Right. Very cool. Super cool.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to go on to sample 7. I started you right up. This is Michael's, and we started right at the very beginning.
I believe it's Mike's, and he's Filipino.
Shut up! You freaking jerk. You never appreciate how difficult simple math multiplication is until you add extenuating circumstances like early morning drowsiness or blaring and pulsing loud music or 2-digit multiplication. Dirty move, math alarm app. And I put some little things.
I really love this first paragraph so much.
It's going to cost you in the reviews. 1 out of 5 stars. Assigned problem too difficult for having just woken up. Let's see. 24 times 17 is Isaac Euler Nash. You get ready for school now or so help me. 408. Nothing gets your blood like your mother threatening you with bodily harm or chores. Mom would never have hit me, but she sure as beans would make me mow the lawn again, just for good measure. Whenever Mom uses my full name, it's like a high-pressure gauge pointing at red, screaming, warning. I was named after 3 mathematicians, and I am distantly related to one of them. Dad had always been proud to call the great John Nash a relative and colleague in spirit, though they had never worked together. My dad had been a mathematician too, and had given me the burden of living up to not just one great mathematical mind, but 3. Then he disappeared and left Mom and me to fend for ourselves. Get dressed or your food will get cold, Mom called from the downstairs of our tiny 3-bedroom apartment. Super fun voice.
Yep, I'm so excited about this character. And the math is happy, and the math alarm app, like I didn't even know that existed. I'm super happy. Clearly it exists, right? I'm so happy.
No, that's awesome. The only thing that I thought, we loved this non-reaction here. So you have, let's go ahead. This is
his beat is the number 408. People, that's genius.
I know, it's so great. So this is his motivation. Okay, and we go right to
408.
Nothing. We go. In other words, like we're showing, and again, we've talked about examples.
This kid cares more about that than anything, and you're telling me right now that his reaction to his blood pumping, we don't even see the visceral blood pumping. Boom, he has the reaction. He has the answer. So
math.
That's almost 408 is almost his visceral reaction.
Focused. His. You know how they say some people have a 1-track mind. I mean, it's funny because he's very ADD in some ways.
He's trying to focus, and Mom yelling at him. Boom.
But then he's not really super focused sometimes. So we see that in his reaction. And we also see that he does have a reaction. He just gets to it when he's good and ready.
Right.
After he's
he's kind of like hilarious. In fact, I would... I would almost make 408 its own paragraph. I don't know. You probably don't because it might be confusing. They might not get it, but it's just great.
Okay, but here's the thing. Once we get to here,
cut that paragraph.
Then we're getting to a lot of exposition.
Right, and it almost says some of the exact same things. I think the only thing that really was critical for me in that paragraph she's got highlighted right there is that Dad disappeared and left him and Mom to fend for themselves. And you can totally hit that with the idea of, yeah, I have to mow the lawn because Dad's not here anymore to do it. If you wanted to.
Right.
If you wanted one curt line about that or something, I just don't think you need any more. Clearly, he is descended from mathematicians and or he's genius.
Right.
I can get that later.
I felt like we could get this later. And here's why. I mean, it's so fun, the thoughts and so this is exposition here, but these thoughts that he's had, him and his thoughts are just so fun. Like, and I love being in there, but then you start the scene and then you keep going with the scene and then we're back in exposition, kind of for no reason. And then we're back in scene. And to me, that was too much. I felt like this needed to go somewhere else. Yeah, so then just keep going here. I wouldn't even mind if it went right here, because just clean up the scene, like answer the question. Like she says something and he thinks about his reaction and then she says something again, but it's almost like,
you know, there is no reason right there for him to reiterate what happens when Mom uses the full name, and I don't think there's a well, and I can see why you wanted to put the three mathematicians next to the full name. If you want to put 3 mathematicians, just do it a lot shorter. Put it right by.
Oh, that's true.
Because the 3 mathematicians thing is cool, but don't go into the whole shebang after that.
You can call them that again, maybe.
You'll have to keep it there. Just I would trim for sure.
I would trim it though. I would trim it. Okay.
You're cutting our action away. I want to get to what's happening.
But very cool. Very cool. Okay, let's go back over to here. We're gonna go unscreen share. Okay, we're gonna finish up our list, and then we're gonna get on to the and we're gonna be done. Yay! Okay. All right. I've been talking a lot.
I'm like, where are we now?
Break out of telling.
Break out of telling.
Yes.
And step into showing. So just make sure that you're, just check that showing, not telling thing over and over again. If you just state something out, see if there's some way you can make me feel it, make me experience it in the story.
Right.
Because clearly everything you're doing in a story is telling, so sometimes that irritates me when people say that, but it really is true. Like, don't just blah, 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 blah at me. Show it to me. Show me in the way the dialogue works, in the way the relationship works. Don't say, Mom and I had always had a really cantankerous relationship. Yeah. Show me the cantankerous relationship.
Right.
Describe the setting by focusing on movement, sound, smell, taste, or feel. And that's how you put me in it. That's how you trigger a memory for me.
Well, look at Harry Potter. If you happen to have it on your shelves, a lot of people do, just pick it up sometime. It's a whole new world. And so we have to see, oh my gosh, just like the castle. Where do they live?
Hogwarts.
Hogwarts. Where do they live there?
They live in the Philippines, Nikki. They live in the Philippines.
I hate you. So, Hogwarts is super complicated. Diagon Alley, go there and visit that.
Feel it
with him.
That's why we're so happy. We are immersed. We are in it.
Yeah, but sometimes people immerse you in it, and it's a still image. Imagine a picture of a forest, no matter how beautiful it is. If you describe it and describe it and describe it, there's some I hate this so much. Imagine now that you're a camera soaring through the forest, or that the forest is in motion while you're looking at it. The eagle is soaring and the water is rushing. The movement, sound, no matter what. When J.K. Rowling describes the cauldron, it's never just a cauldron and it was black and it was fat and it was heavy. No, it's exploding right then. And then Fred and George are hiding behind it, making it explode.
With our cute characters and our humor.
Yeah.
And there's a reason always why we're in that scene, because something is happening always.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah.
So try to describe things while they are moving.
Nikki had on here, use reliable one-liners, he sneered. Now,
I wasn't sure how
do not take that. Well, just don't take it, because I took it the wrong way when I first read that. And so when I first read that, I was like, get out of my way. he sneered. That's what I thought you meant. And I was like, no. He can sneer, but please don't make that your dialogue tag. Like, don't make that your comment. He sneered. Don't do it, please. I almost never.
Oh, no. You do period.
I know. But in my head, when I saw that, I was just seeing those awful, I thought you were telling them they can't say he said.
No, it's
and
just
they have to always make it
sometimes
something
we are
really...
trying so hard to be cool with our
he
writing.
He raised his lip in a strange way that reveals his teeth and seemed disdainful.
You look like... Just say he sneered. You know, if
you gotta get on camera. That's amazing.
And sometimes, you know, it's still kind of showing he sneered. It's kind of a cliched, overused way of telling or showing. And
but sometimes he can just sneer.
Totally.
But then search sneer if you happen to be a real big sneerer. My character's the eyebrows.
The eyebrows. Lots of eyebrows.
Yeah,
so change it up. But don't kill yourself to describe using visceral reactions, their emotions. Sometimes let your reader just get through the dialogue. Don't, and we're talking about beats, and we're kind of encouraging you to put those beats
Don't
in.
kill your pacing by beating.
But don't kill your pacing.
Usually you only need one.
Yeah,
Usually only need one, and sometimes you don't need anything.
Just little. And he sneered, gives the beat, and lets us move on, and it's 2 sentences, or two words. Very short.
Right.
Okay.
She said ditch tags. So, and this one is exactly right. Okay, that's one, Ben said, pointing to the rock on the ledge. And then she changed it here to Ben pointing to the rock teetering on the ledge. That one. Or that one. Ben pointed to the rock teetering on the ledge.
Yes.
But the way she put it gives us the information up front so that by the time he says that one, we don't have to wonder what he meant.
Right.
So that's really cool. But also, like, I go through and I do my search in my manuscript because I do it non-stop. Blah, blah, blah. She said, leaning over the thing. No, she can just lean over the thing.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Like, get away from me, Nikki. She punched Nikki. Like, like she said, punching Nikki.
Yeah.
Said,
comma,
punching.
verbing.
You don't have to do it. Get rid of it.
You don't need to do
It's
that.
sex words.
Right.
Okay. So, yeah.
Also, did you notice how I did my other example too? Because I had pointing to the rock on the ledge, and then we have pointing to the rock teetering.
Strong word.
So, and also it's in action. The fact that it's teetering on the edge gives some sense of drama.
Right, it's not just a rock. Will it fall? No, look. It's a rock.
Like, there it is. That's a rock worth looking at, not just like a rock on a ledge, So anyway.
Check, especially as you're switching up your sentence structure for, like, in mine, I'll be like, M said, M walked, and did, and like, don't please, just, it sounds so juvenile, like they taught you to do that in elementary school, but I do it all the time. It's terrible.
Right.
And then she said, put your backstory into dialogue, but watch out, and that's really legit. Like, the worst ever are like,
as you know, Bob.
As you know, Mother, we have been poor for a long time.
You sure have been poor.
We have been poor.
Did you actually say poor?
No, but when I learned about that, it was from Martine Lovett, who's from Canada. She totally did. It was so cute. I love her. Anyway.
As you know, Mother.
As you know, Nikki, we are good friends.
Exactly. All the time we're saying that. Okay. So next one, check that every character who comes onto the camera is physically described. Okay, and if you can hint at their personality or story role, bonus.
Physically described. Be careful with that. Like, we just finished saying, you don't have to give me, and especially of the main character, unless you're in third person. Like, even if you are in third person, if you're in their head, you do not have to describe.
Oh yeah, actually,
you really don't have to. And so, like, I would almost care more about a description that reveals something about personality. Like, she talked about the scruffy stubble, or she talked about, like, Nikki's book that she wrote last year, whatever. It is amazing. When it first introduces Cordero, the gang member, like, every single word reveals character. The way that his tattoo is, the way his muscles are, the way his, and so every description of him is just magnetic because it reveals character with the description. I don't need, she has red hair, he has brown hair, blah, blah, blah. So just anyway, be careful with that because that is a really classic thing.
Okay, actually, I'm so glad you brought this up, though, because when it's on camera, okay, so if you're writing in classic third person, you are the camera. You are not seeing yourself. So I don't need, like, the main character does not need to be ever
describe themselves. No, they describe the people they see.
They can, but
based
they don't
on
have to.
What they would notice about them.
I would like a little hint of who they are based on saying things like, I walked into the room and noticed 5 of the men inside were bald. Done. He's tall. Like, like if he looks down on their head or something like that, or like again, like I pushed my hair back.
Right.
We have a sense that she has like long hair. Ground us in her or him, whoever the main character is, being the main character and having the camera. But when that camera swings to someone coming on, you need to give us something, anything. Right. The Asian secretary. If it's just a secretary, you don't have to go on and on and on. Just give us like a tiny little bit. Just or the whatever.
Or like I have like the grandmother's fingers are too round to be wrinkled because she's got those pudgy hands, so they're not like normal grandma hands or whatever. And it's just a little color, just a little something we're gonna remember Irene. Right.
Okay. So, and if the longer you spend on the introduction to the character, the more important the character is.
Right. So if you give me 2 paragraphs of introduction on someone that we're never going to care about again.
Unless you're doing literary, just don't do that. Right. So, yeah, just little stuff, you know. Okay, then check your characters' names. Okay, this one. Okay,
don't have 6 M names in your main character cast.
You don't want to have the same name first letter. And that's a pretty commonly held one, so you don't want to have like a Melanie and a Megan, because the reader actually...
You can avoid it. You actually just see the first letter and
the reader actually sees just the first letter,
so it's confusing.
And skips. But I read another one. I have this one. I read a story with a Dave, Mike, Jeff, and Chad. They were all 4 letters.
Just super bland,
they
simple,
sounded
one
like,
syllable.
Yeah, they sounded like Caucasian 30-something-year-old men. All of them. And I just could not keep track of them.
Chad? Who's Dave?
You know, if they had been named A-Rod, El Jefe, I, Batman, and Cray Cray.
Please name them that.
I would never have missed that. I would never have forgotten who was who.
So do things now to your characters that you would never do to your children and just go.
Yes.
Go with it.
No, for real. Definitely. Yeah.
And you know what? Really simple way to add diversity. Really simple way to add diversity to your books. Totally. Choose your names from around the world.
Totally. It's totally
Let one kid have an Egyptian name and let one kid have a Hispanic name, and definitely include a Filipino, and everyone will be...
Darcy Cole, did you watch the Darcy Cole's video?
No.
Are you kidding me? Oh, you have to watch it.
I will watch it.
Okay, you guys all have to watch it. It's amazing. So she does Popular, the song Popular from Wicked. She does it as if she's pitching to an agent, and she videotapes it live. So the agent's there, and she's just singing to the agent about how great her book is. And she has a very differentiated but name for her white character. That's one of the lines in there. It's totally awesome. Shout out to Darcy.
Hey, Darcy.
Totally rad. I loved it so much.
I can't wait to see it.
But anyway, you have to watch it.
Nikki will link to it in the wrap-up
email. I will, because it's that rad. Okay. Introduce as few characters as possible. I'm going to say no more than 5 by name, but I actually don't believe that. I think it's more like 3.
In your first chapter.
Keep
it simple.
Keep it as little as you can, and use relationships to map.
If we're thrown into a scene at school where there's going to be 7 different characters introduced by name, I might put the book down. Right. That might be a 3 for me.
But
because I would get confused.
But relationships don't count. Mother and father doesn't count. It's not a name, and it's inherent.
We have shorthand for it. We know she'll have a mother. The mother can talk. Done.
If there's a teacher, if it's like there's Heather and there's Nikki and there's Mr. Smith, and we're in a classroom setting, we know Mr. Smith is the teacher, so again, that like doesn't count. Right. So if you can use relationships to map like that, then you can have more characters in, and it doesn't matter. Okay, check your foreshadowing. Okay, if you start your story and your characters are in a good place, that's great, but you need to massively foreshadow that there will be problems. So my story that I'm finishing up right now, the girl is like so excited, like,
it's the best in her life, right?
It's the best moment of her life. And so, of course, we have all this foreshadowing that it's going to be a complete disaster. You know, so whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Okay, so just check your first and last line, and I would say for first whole paragraph.
Yeah.
Make sure that first paragraph that there's not a word in there that you don't need, and get it. I would almost opt over information to make it sound great.
Yeah, sometimes. Just either beautiful or unique
or hooky or interesting
humor.
Or the drama is there something that's gonna just grab me and be like, what? And I must carry on to paragraph 2.
Yeah, just something that really
brainstorm with your people.
Yes.
Sit down with your people, get a team on this.
Try a position, try a dialogue.
Write random first line.
Just write it. Write it. Because
this is stressing me out. If any of you could see my first chapter right now, I don't know how bad it is.
Okay, last paragraph. Is there a hook? Which there has to be. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in the last paragraph, but try to get the hook into the last paragraph, preferably the last line of the paragraph, and if you can.
So we're talking a disaster or decision, really. Yes. Because people said hook to me for like 4 years before I didn't think it meant something interesting, which it kind of means something interesting. Right. But I'm like, that sentence was interesting. It was about my main character. She is nice.
Right.
Do not end past your hook.
Right.
Don't keep going. Don't give me 2 more lines that will drain the poetry out of whatever moment you just created. Right. Create the moment and get out.
Try if you can, and again, we talked about this last week, if you can, with your chapter especially, try to set it up so that we can see what the emotional stakes are, so that when the disaster hits, we know the emotional stakes before you tell them to us.
Right.
If you possibly can.
I mean, there was that really great line, this is at the end of their chapter, but that moment when she says, I will die in a day and a half.
Right. We already know.
Done. You hooked
we don't,
especially if you go back to that one little line
and just a little bit more. Because if we already have a sense, like, we talked about this last week, there was the girl and her uncle gets kidnapped, and this is because anyway, so we know she's this hacker, and we know that she's going to end up going against somebody really dangerous, but we don't really know what's going on. And then out of left field, we realize that the FBI, they've been trying to track this kidnapped victim, and her mom and dad, who are Border Patrol agents, are witnesses in one of the kidnappers' trial, and so they think that they're being kidnapped to try to have them not testify.
Right.
Anyway.
So the moment we see, this is the person who was kidnapped, this is the relationship to her, we're like, holy crap, she's dead. This is horrible. Right?
Well, not only is it just a regular old disaster, but we know she's going to hack that specific.
We know she will. Right.
Right.
She will take those skills.
We kind of had the foreshadowing to know she was going to hack something, but we're kind of like, we don't really know what. And then boom,
we know what she will do, and we know
she's going to go against the drug cartel.
Right.
And so the more you can do that, it's kind of like a hook to me is like a punchline, in that a joke has, like, you give him a little piece of the puzzle and you give him another little piece of the puzzle, and then you put the puzzles together in a way that's unique or different or that we didn't expect. That would be humor. And again, in the chapter, you're telling us why their life is important and what's important to them, and you're telling us what they're trying to do or what's kind of going on, and then you put those puzzle pieces together in a way that doesn't fit. And when you see that it doesn't fit, you're like, ooh, this is a good story, because the puzzle pieces don't fit, so what are they going to do?
Right.
So, okay, that's cool. All right.
We did the hook. Sense of mystery.
Yeah, I really like this. There was an agent on Twitter. She tweeted this. I want the reader to be thinking, how will this character get out of this situation, rather than thinking, what the heck is the situation?
Right. Don't hide your situation from me.
Just tell them.
Tell me. Like, literally, if you have to hold my hand and just say, this is a boat full of rich dilettantes who think that they are an unsinkable boat. This is an iceberg.
Yes.
It's right here in the path of the ship. I would be like, oh, the ship's crazy. You know, I will be ready.
Do it in a hook kind of way. Like you have the unsinkable boat and all this stuff, and then you have a side story, and there's this island.
Oh, we know that girl has never been loved, and she's like being forced to,
and then all of a sudden, right at the end of the chapter, we get the path, and then when we see the path, we're like, this can't. Right. Something has to give, because this supposedly is unsinkable, and this is like not movable and whatever.
Right.
Okay, I'm just gonna read this. If after everything we tell you, you keep something, you hide something from the reader that the character knows, don't be dramatic about it. And I mean this very seriously.
Don't wink at the reader and be like, I'll tell you something later.
On and on and on. I have this pain in my heart, but I can't tell you what it is, Jenny, because it's only chapter 1. And we need to wait to chapter 5.
You will find out on chapter 5 what the great pain is.
No, don't do it. Okay. Search for your favorite words and try to reword around them or ditch them. Just even so, go. I put a website on there, but there are lots of them.
Gasp, breathe. That's me.
Make sure your reader knows why the character can't easily solve their problem. This is kind of interesting, because when you come to that hook, sometimes it's obvious why they can't solve their problem easily enough. But I think you want to have crossed out some of the things that they possibly could have done, and you've already sort of, before the reader even knows what the hook is, and this is why you kind of have to use your foreshadowing and use your, you're just going to have to work this in. You're going to try to make the dialogue and the narration and the backstory all seem really natural and flow really well. But what you're actually doing that is feeding them all of the things that they can't do to solve their problem. Does that make sense? Like yours with the pregnant girl, you're kind of feeding in there like, mom's not really an option.
Right. Mom's got a new boyfriend. Mom is happy with him. Mom might be moving.
Mom doesn't really want like a granddaughter or a grandbaby.
Right. The boyfriend, I'm feeding a tiny seed about this boyfriend is not going to be a good dad. He's not going to help you.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And we have like hints of like there isn't any other family. Like we already know that the extended family has passed on. We already know that wealth isn't really going to come into play. There's no money,
and they're kind of not.
We know blah blah blah. And when we realize at the end that she wants to keep the baby, we already know there is
like
basically no option.
Disaster.
It's already a disaster because she has no option.
Right.
And she wants the baby really bad.
And her mom thinks she just had an abortion.
Right. So lying, never worth it. Okay.
Thank you for that moral lesson.
I have to get that moral lesson. People ruin their lives on stupid lies.
That's true.
Know the difference between a reaction and an action. This one, for me, I read a chapter that I feel like isn't quite, it's like so good and the story is so fun, but I'm like, this will not get picked up by an agent, in my opinion, or by a publisher, because the character is too passive.
Yes.
And this is how it goes, in my opinion. You're going to read it. Number 1, a Hawkeye smiles at me. Number 2, I puke. Number 3, I explain to the reader how my sister was assaulted recently by a guy who looks like him. It's all just reaction. She's just reacting to everything.
And we just saw something sad.
It was sad. You know, if you had it go in a different order, a Hawkeye smiles at me. I explained to the reader about my sister. I asked for a transfer at work to avoid the guy. We can see she's living her life in fear, and she's actively making
almost sabotaging herself or whatever.
She's sabotaging herself or whatever it is. And we can see that that's something that we can feel for her, but she seems active. She seems like she's thinking and doing stuff.
So many first chapters are just, it's so sad how in this castle, in this tower with my dad who doesn't like me. And
like major stuff will happen. Like I was reading this one, I told
but other people are doing it and they're just
they're just doing nothing. Like
they're feeling it.
They were like on a horse. They were on a horse and the horse like morphed into a tank. And you could tell she was shocked by this. It's like, wow, now it's a tank. This is crazy. And then she like goes home and she like eats breakfast
and thinks about a tank that just came out of the
horse. She pretty much just has a conversation with her cousin about like the weather, how the garden is doing, you know. And I'm like, whatever. Like, first of all, it's not like you have to go blabbing to your cousin, but you can make a hardcore decision. Like, I'm not telling anyone about that. They're gonna think I'm crazy or whatever. Like, but there was no decision. It was just like she sort of forgot how this had happened.
What had happened?
You know, like that's kind of a major thing, you know.
And here's the thing, I think because we tell people, show us the conflict, show us the stakes, sometimes what we just show us is just Harry Potter sitting sad in the closet under the stairs for a long time.
Whereas Harry Potter, he makes it a personal goal of his almost to thwart his family, but he always has to do it on the sly. And they know he's doing it, but they never catch him.
And we just like it.
And we just love it. It's so great.
Yeah.
Like, he's making decisions all along. He's like waiting for his time. He's like, you know, Aunt does this, Uncle does this.
But instead, he could have just blubbered in the closet upstairs for a chapter. His life sucked.
It would have been terrible. Okay, last thing. Please read the chapter out loud before you hand it in.
We'll find half of your errors.
Yes. Spelling and grammar, you can obviously do a spelling and grammar check. You can also try reading your piece backwards by sentence. So what I mean is print the whole thing out, go to the last page, start at the last sentence, and read the last sentence for spelling and grammar. Then read the next to last sentence, then read the third to last sentence. And that, it helps your brain to focus less on...
When you're not just in the story.
Yeah, you're focusing less on the plot and much more on the actual grammar and all of that. And then, last one. Beta test your chapter with people.
Yeah.
The best you can.
Okay, so it's Monday at 8 p.m. is the deadline for the first chapter contest.
I'm going to be reading.
I have already lined up betas for
example,
Saturday morning. I have to have it to betas. And we're going to get 2 days to try the crap that it is.
Yes. And we're going to go on to Jana's right now because I know we're a little over time and we're really sorry about that.
If you've already left us.
If you've left us, it's okay. We love you anyway. Jinx! Okay. Jana, we knew we were going to be out of time, so I...
put it on screen share, though.
Screen share? I don't know why I can't ever actually... Did that work?
You're at the helm, and I'm your really annoying co-pilot.
So, Jana, we really, really like this. We are, to bring the viewer up to speed, I really like this because it's showing us and not telling us where they are. So we would have to kind of read in here.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that we didn't like, so she's on a porch, somebody knocks on her door. There were a few things that I wanted. Her vintage dress, we weren't sure if they were dressed up for a party or if it really is like 1920, because you've got these flapper girls.
Right, and you know, it's funny
So
because I think what you mean is hers is vintage and they are hip. And I think you said that, but I missed that a little. And so for part of me thought it was a dress up party and it was more modern than this.
Yeah, so maybe just
but just be careful with those. You put the seeds in there, so maybe I'm just being dumb, but just check it.
I really like that it was showing. I really liked it. A knock sounded on the timber door, followed by a squeal and giggling of excited debutantes. Beatrice took a deep breath, though I thought she was with the debutantes.
Right, so did I. It was a little
member
confusing at the front.
of the
And I think that's why I thought that when Beatrice put into her
Yes.
vintage dress, I didn't know who she was. I didn't realize she was there.
Right. I really wanted this to be
You
a
can
separate
tell me.
paragraph. And I really wanted Beatrice took a deep breath, preparing to answer the door.
Exactly. Give me
to these
clearly.
people. Like,
The chore is that she has to go and do a reading for them.
mhm.
Give it to me.
Yeah.
It's far more interesting, especially right there in those first lines.
Preparing
I know she's about to do like a clairvoyant reading for these vapid girls. Awesome. I'm in.
So even if you just did this, preparing to confront the girls waiting for her to open the door, then we know that she's the one greeting them, or to greet the girls at the door or whatever. But we need to know that she is not one of the girls at the door.
Right.
That was key for me to understand it. Now we're at sample 7,
Sample
8, but we shouldn't go this. I should have trimmed it a little bit. We'll do the first half of it. So the words burned. Oh, sorry. They are asking for this mademoiselle.
And this is a great motivation, by the way.
It's totally
I love
awesome. We totally love it. She's asking to talk to this older woman, and Beatrice says, well, the older woman's asleep. What do you need to see her for? And she says, what kind of fortune reader needs to ask that question? You know, and so now we're getting her reaction. The words burned across Beatrice's cheeks. She slouched farther into the shadow behind the door and took a deep breath. The mixture of incense and the debutante's perfume overwhelmed her. She inhaled again, breathing through her nose, enjoying the soft, flowery scent over the familiar musk of the parlor. We're going to get to comments later. The tall girl kept her posture rigid, staring down her nose at Beatrice, making her squirm. The wide-eyed girls behind her offered no comfort. Pleasantries was over. It was time for Beatrice to use her natural gift of telepathy to decipher why they were here. If they wanted her to tell them what to do, she'd prescribe them the courage to follow the instinct. If they were in mourning, she would, and there was more stuff here, and it was all super, super cool stuff, but in the interest of time, speed, she says, you want to ask about a fellow. The girls gasped and murmured to themselves. The blonde girls stiffened. Hush, girls, any dumb Dora could guess we came about a fellas. Go on, tell us more. Beatrice's fingers moved to the amethyst pendant laying over her sash. She chose her words with caution. Divulging the right amount of information was an art. Too little, and they'd peg her for a fraud. Too much, and they'd underpay her. And then she goes on to tell him about him. And then she has triumph that was, she got what she wanted out of it. Okay, so.
I love that visceral reaction. The words burned across her cheeks. I mean, it's metaphorical. It's interesting. I feel it. I love it.
Yeah, and it's easy to read and it's easy to understand.
And then she slouches.
Yeah, that's great.
Into the shadow, which is also great. That's her reaction to the feeling. The words burning is the feeling.
This is an actual action here.
Well, actually, yeah, I guess.
She slouches.
Yeah.
I think that's an action.
But the slouching to me feels very like. Anyway.
But it's not so much of an action that you can't still spend some more time. But this I did think was a contradictory emotional setting.
Overwhelming is what I want to see. When she breathes through her nose and enjoys the soft flowery scent, I don't like that because these girls are brats.
Unless you want to really take the time. If she's standing outside the door and their perfume overwhelms her, and then she backs up.
Don't take the time.
Then she inhales.
Don't take the time that soon.
Yeah.
Because she can't suddenly enjoy their perfume. It's overwhelming, and they are overwhelming, and they're kind of awful. So I would use the first one because it's much truer to the emotional moment.
Oh,
she's not enjoying the scent of their perfume.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
So just clear that up. Which one is it? But I think you're going to want to go with maybe her being off kilter, her being not in her safety zone here. So make it
And that's a
overwhelming.
really good example of how you can create a beat out of the environment.
Yeah, that's really that's great. Okay, so then we have another motivation unit here. And so they're staring down her nose, they're expecting something. She makes a decision. In fact, she even says, doesn't she throw over, it was time. So there you go, you're telling us. And then I really liked how you did the backstory here. Your thoughts just told us so much about the story, and it was coming at the perfect time. We needed to know that.
Right, and I really think that you're totally fine to just go motivation decision there, especially because you kind of give me actually her emotion right before the decision when you say those girls offered no comfort.
Well, that's true.
So right there, you've shown me her emotion, even as you're showing me they're basically, they don't care.
Right. I like it when...
But you've already shown me this tiny bit of emotion, and she's like, step to it, let's get there. And I thought that was great. Also for pacing. Yeah,
that's great. The more you can show, the less you have to tell. So
right,
you don't
that one sentence does a lot.
Yeah, you don't have to take us through all of the things. So I thought that was totally great. We have another motivation here. And we have, what was it that, I think everything was in the right order.
It's working really well.
I thought it was going really, really, really well.
Yep, and the fingers moving to the amethyst pendant, I wasn't quite sure if that was like something that's gonna like actually help her focus her powers, or if she just has to touch it because she's nervous. And either way, I was fine with it.
Right.
And I love her analysis there, her thoughts about divulging the right amount of information, but you've shown me this kind of nervous thing first. It's great.
Yeah, I totally like
that. You let
her
pause. If you just said she chose her words with caution, it would be okay, but I think it's really strong when you do that.
Yeah, I really wanted a paragraph break here, though. I wanted Beatrice's reaction to be on a separate line here from here. And then she'd convinced them, filled her chest. So she's reacting now to her,
convinced them.
Yeah, to her assessment of what happened here. So now, I thought it worked really, really well.
If you wanted to rework the order there, Beatrice smirked. When they fell silent, she convinced them. You could, but I don't think you have to.
That's true. I guess
you could put her smirk. They fell silent first. She smirked.
When the girls fell silent, Beatrice
because the smirk is a visceral reaction to something. Yeah, I kind of like that better.
I do too, because actually, you know, we talk like this all the time. But technically this is how it happened: A, and then B, and then here's why.
Right, and it just works better for the reader if they don't have to stop and go back and check.
Right. And the here's why is okay for it to come afterwards, because this is a visceral reaction.
Totally.
And visceral reactions actually happen before our automatic thought.
Smirked, and then it's like, yes, I convinced
him.
Really?
Yeah, I convinced him. So yeah, perfect. Okay, awesome. Okay, guys, we're going to go. Let's go ahead and pick somebody really fast for the new chapter, and I promise we will. Oh yeah. Good point. I will look through the questions, and we'll have to do any answering of questions. We will have to do that in the email, which is great. It'll be awesome. Okay, let's see how many people we need to do random number generator. 5? I think just 5. So we've got our random number generator already on. Awesome. Generate. Result.
Not say the number.
Oh, that's right. I can't say that. We haven't had that winner yet, have we?
I don't think so.
Okay, Bookie Monster 2. And that's Laurie Trader, I think. She told me. I think she told me. Okay, awesome. Guys, we're going to go ahead and sign out. Thank you so much. This was so much fun for us, and you guys are awesome. Okay.
Good night.
Good luck. Good luck.